While in episode 3 of season 17 Amy helps Caleb care for his son's pony, Katie tries out a new wrist-based pastime. A new business is started by Lou, and Jessica in his relationship with Miley Lan makes a crucial step, but then something goes awry. Caleb and his son Carson arrived at Heartland, where he asked Amy to work with Donut, the pony he had bought for Carson. At the start of this episode it seems that Donut was not the kind horse that the auction firm had described him as, despite the fact that Carson loved the pony that Caleb bought for him to teach him to ride. When Caleb attempted to explain what was wrong, Donut angrily reacted, making Amy understand that she isn't a kid's pony after all. After learning of the link that had already formed between the two, Amy also felt she had to put forth all of her effort to get Donut ready for Carson. Amy got at work and found that Donut had learned that if he bolted, he may eventually lose his job. After hearing about Donut's history with the auction business, she also realized why. After being saved from ranch where he was kept in a small shed by himself for months, Donut found his way to the auction house, but before that Donut lived with a devoted family, being rode with nothing but a halter by twin 6-year-old girls. Caleb was relieved that Donut could be trained as a result, and he also made the decision to give riding Donut without a sabala shot. And guess what? As soon as Donut left the barn he behaved normally, and even let Amy to ride and bareback. When Caleb later took Donut out, he seemed like a completely different pony, which replies that Carson did in fact receive his birthday present. At the very end of the episode, Lindy, Caleb and Amy took Carson on a pony ride, which was very adorable. Speaking of Amy and Caleb, this episode served as yet another shining illustration of their close bond that has grown over time, especially in the wake of Ty's death. Unfortunately, Edwin's arrival to ask Amy out on a genuine date cut short at emotional moment. Ultimately, Edwin had previously sent Amy flowers to let her know that he intended for their date to be the next time he asked her out. Caleb thus observed as Edwin asked Amy out. It turned out to be a cute date involving archery, and even followed up with an inquiry about Amy's experience. However, Amy began to see by the end of the episode that Edwin might not be the best man for her. Logan received yet another new client horse from Tim in his rodeo school, while Amy was assisting Caleb. Rocky, the new horse Tim purchased for the rodeo school, has a dilemma because it was intended to be a lesson horse for novice barrel racers. Rocky doesn't really like barrels, thus Tim requested Lynn's assistance with Rocky. Naturally, Lynn suspected that the request had something to do with his girlfriend Miley, who he first met in season 16 episode 11. Miley is Tim's barrel racing coach. In the end, he consented to collaborate with Rocky, and Logan put in a lot of effort with the horse, but his focus was elsewhere. Logan had asked Amy if Miley was. Sadly though, Miley was thrown off the rodeo school after attempting to show off her talents on Rocky. At the very end of the episode, as the episode came to a close, Logan was frantically dialing 911 while sprinting up to an unconscious Miley. Lindy on the other side of the fence was observing everything. I feel like Miley will be well, however it will be intriguing to watch how Logan overcomes this obstacle in the upcoming episodes. Hopefully the harm to his confidence won't be too great. Additionally, that his friendship with Miley won't suffer. A significant plot point was advanced about Jack and Tim's business adversary Nathan Price. They eventually got through to Price's foreman, however the foreman was abandoning them once more. Fortunately, Jack heard from the foreman the following day, but the news was not good. Sam's previous farm was not available for lease since Price needed it for their expanding livestock. When Lou, who attended the same school as Price albeit a few years later, talked about how he had abruptly left the group when they were students, but Jack, Tim and Lud did succeed in working out a deal with Price. After some initial difficulties, they emphasized to Price the value of that land to Heartland beef and how much they enjoy having another rancher family as neighbors. Although Price was willing to give them a few acres, he demanded that Heartland pay twice as much as Sam was requesting. Tim and Jack really could not afford that. Fortunately, Lou stepped in and continued the negotiation by using her commercial acumen. She was aware that Nathan needed access to the river and that Price's cattle could safely obtain water by crossing Heartland's farm through a ravine. Thus Price consented when Jack proposed that they leased the land to them for the same amount for a year in exchange for giving Price unfettered access to the river. The episode opened with Lou of marking on a health kick, practicing yoga and meditation many times. 2 a day and indulging in swai high and green protein regardless of how hard Lou tried to deny it. Her family saw that she was wallowing. Tim even confronted her about it, advising her to move past the setback and resume her activities. However, Lou was ultimately assisted by Jessica in regaining her confidence. Tim and Jessica met at an abandoned Hudson storefront for a major surprise. Early in the episode, Jessica's goal is to showcase her artwork and attract new customers by opening her own gallery. In Hudson, she also discovered the ideal location for the gallery, an old historically significant structure in the heart of Hudson. Although Tim thought Jessica's concept was brilliant and the finest he had heard in a long time, he was a little worried about the condition of the land. However, Jessica was truly dealing with more serious issues. Any changes she wanted to make to the property required obtaining licenses, because it was a historic building. However, Jessica was receiving the runaround from the Heritage Committee, which informed her that it might take up to a year to hit the licenses she required. That was obviously ridiculous, so Tim recommended Jessica talk to Lou about it. After all, Lou has significant influence over the town of Hudson because until very recently she served as its mayor. Initially, Jess was a little reluctant to approach Lou for assistance because Lou was already handling a lot. However, Tim gave his wife encouragement, telling her that Lou needed a new purpose nonetheless, so she quit staying home all day in her yoga pants. Jess requested Elle to assist her with the Heritage Committee. After demonstrating the space to her, Lou immediately nodded in agreement, envisioning the potential of the property. After speaking with Lou over the phone, the committee assured her that Jessica would receive her permissions as soon as she turned in her drawings for the area. Fortunately, Lou and Jessica both acknowledged their mistakes by the end of episode and offered their apologies to one another since Lou believed that more people should be aware of Jessica. Lou even created a mock-up for the art gallery window that prominently displayed Jessica's name as a gesture of goodwill. Naturally, Jessica was moved so much so that Jessica had accepted Lou's proposal to become a business partner, stating that Lou has excellent judgment when it comes to a project such as this, and that she doesn't want to handle the gallery on her own. It will be fascinating to watch how this collaboration develops, since Katie got up to some pretty interesting things in this episode. Her plot comes last. The episode opened with Katie anxiously checking her tablet to see if her short story submission for the competition had been accepted. Observing Katie's nervousness, Jack suggested that she try something different rather than constantly refreshing the page. Katie then offered to ride the horse after overhearing Amy inform Shadow that she won't be able to take him for a ride. After all, in the previous episode, when riding with Logan, she had obtained the inspiration for her narrative. However, Katie had a bad encounter with a boy riding a dirt bike while she was on a trail shot. Was alarmed by Brandon, the youngster who rode straight past Katie. Fortunately, Katie was able to stop the horse, but when Brandon stopped in front of her, she reprimanded him, urging him to slow down when he passes someone and to try apologizing rather than ordering her to calm down. Katie seemed noticeably disturbed during breakfast the following morning, and when Lou attempted to discuss the issue with Katie, the teenager simply lost it, screaming that everything she tried to do ended up failing and rushed out. It was a response to the writing competition results. Of course, it seems that Katie had done some study on the stories that previous judges had selected as finalists and then created a story she believed the judges would enjoy. However, the judges thought Katie's story was too well-known, too formulaic, and a parody of earlier works, so she didn't even make it to the finals. In an attempt to decompress, Katie took a stroll and by chance discovered a dirt bike track where she ran across Brandon once more. This time they had a real conversation, and as a gesture of contrition for what had transpired on the trail the day before, Brandon even invited Katie to try riding his bike herself. However, Katie declined, claiming that as she found out Lou would kill her. Even worse, Helly, a different writer, interrupted Katie and Brandon's conversation by calling Katie a snob and a prim country girl who doesn't like the mud. Katie ultimately confided in her mother. After feeling even worse after returning from her stroll, she explained that she thought the judges had chosen her rather than her narrative because it was unoriginal and predictable. Lou suggested to Katie that it might be time for the two of them to take on a new challenge since she was about to embark on a new endeavor of her own. If Lou had known what the new thing Katie had chosen to try, I'm sure she wouldn't have said that. Nevertheless, at the conclusion of the episode, Katie was seen mounting Brandon's bike and riding through a puddle after Brandon confirmed that this was Katie's true desire and that she was aware that the rear brake should be used rather than the front one. In fact, Katie was eager to give dirt riding a try. Additionally, the fact that Katie and Brandon appeared to Already be connected out. Do you recognize the person who didn't look familiar from the season 17 trailer? He wasn't the person behind Price family beef, at least not that I expected, especially considering the show had us think that Price beef is handled by someone who was more like Jack in age. However, once Amy spots the enigmatic man while out for a ride, we learn that he's Nathan Price Jr. The interaction between Amy and Nathan, though, was the most fascinating aspect of it all. After Amy gave her introduction, they discussed ponies in Bronx before Nathan got up to leave. Heartland's upcoming episode, titled A Piece Apart, we have Tim's son Shane visiting Heartland with his new bride, and Tim will be doing everything in his power to make it ideal. In addition, Lindy's sudden dread of horses will be Amy's challenge since the young child saw Miley fall firsthand. In addition, Katie will be having friendship problems and Logan will be holding himself responsible for Miley's accident.